Okay, we're here with part 2 of the N10J-A2 notebook. In part 1 we looked at the specifications of the N10J, looked around the exterior and some of the interior of the notebook. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start the N10J up and we're going to look at some of the features and have a look at the Vista OS and expressgate OS. So, since we're already turned off, we'll start with expressgate. And what I do for that is I will hit the expressgate button, and that will boot it into the expressgate, and it's supposed to do it in about 5 seconds. So we should get a splash screen real shortly. And there we have it. And again, this is the expressgate splash screen. You can go directly to items like the web, music, view photos, do chat, or do any Skype calls or anything else like that. So we'll show an example by launching the web here. And again, that was the splash screen. It's now actually loading the expressgate OS, which is a small Linux operating system. And this takes about 30 seconds. So, wait for it to get fully booted up here. And we're already connected to a Wi-Fi network, so we should be able to pull the ASUS homepage up when the browser loads here. And there we have it, right there. And the splashtop browser used in the expressgate tends to work pretty well. The memory management in expressgate, though, for the browser is not very good compared to when you're using Internet Explorer and Windows Vista. If you're gonna watch multiple YouTube videos or do any multi-tabbing or multitasking, it's gonna tend to crash the browser on you, which in case it will just terminate the browser. So you have to be wary about that when using expressgate with the splashtop browser. You want to do light tasks with it to avoid crashing the browser at all. It does work pretty fast. You do most of all your stuff with it just fine. Instead of looking around the ASUS page, trying the browser, and from this you can either power off or you can directly boot into the Vista operating system, which we will go ahead and do now. We'll boot up Windows Vista Business here. We'll have it restart the system. And that's our normal startup screen when we're booting normally. And on this thing, the first time I was working with it, I was actually more disappointed with this system when I first was working with it, because this thing would run like a slug and would have really slow boot times, and it would hang when I tried to restart or shut down, and I would even have problems trying to come out of standby with it. And I come to find out it's all these garbage applications that run in the background that load on the startup of Windows and slow it down. And of course that also increases the startup time. So I went into msconfig and pretty much disabled all of them except for the fingerprint reader software, the Realtek HD monitor, the touchpad, and one other item. And after that, this thing works great after that. So when you get one, you have to make sure to disable a lot of that stuff if you want this thing to be able to run and perform really well. And there's our Vista boot screen, and our login, and we'll log in using the fingerprint reader since I have my fingerprint registered with it. It's very easy to use. You just swipe your finger over the sensor.
Access granted.
And logs you right in. Now that sound is not the default that it comes with. That was added on, so you're not going to get that sound if you right off the bat with the fingerprint reader. booting up the desktop and all the programs. And we're fully loaded now. I mean, it didn't take too long to load the sidebar and all the background apps that I have selected. But if I had left them all running, this would take forever. So it's a very good idea to disable a lot of those if you really want to get good performance out of this. I highly suggest you do that. Now that we're in Windows, the button here has changed functions now. When it was turned off, it launched expressgate, but now, when we're in Windows, it acts as the power forward gear mode change, so I can change the power options with that. See, I switched to entertainment mode, switched to quiet office, and then I can also switch to power saving here. Should be the one right after it. Battery saving. Now each mode does things differently with the layout of the desktop. See, in battery saving here, it changes the background, it hides the taskbar, and it disables the sidebar. So it's trying to maximize the battery life by not only changing the CPU speed and the screen brightness, but it also changes the layout of the desktop to try to take off unnecessary applications that could also use up the CPU. So we'll go back to high performance mode, and that will restore everything back to normal. Let's restore the taskbar icons, bring the sidebar back, and then it should shortly bring back the background. Now in the meantime, we have booted this up with the 9300MGS Nvidia graphics, so it's using the enhanced graphics right now. So what we shall do is we'll have a look at the Windows Vista score for this, and actually the Vista score for this is actually quite good for something like this. Bring up our system rating. And the overall Vista score for this is 3.3, and that's with the 9300MGS. We have the slowest component with this right now in its current setting is the processor at 3.3. Again, it's that Atom N270. We have a 4.6 for our memory, 4.8 for our graphics, 4.6 for our gaming graphics, and 5.4 for our primary hard disk. So the 9300MGS is a really good graphics chip on here. Some of the high-end notebooks like my HDXs are 5.4 or more. So this is not too far off from those. Now, if this was running the Intel GMA 950, this would be an overall score of 2.7, the lowest being the gaming graphics. So 4.6 with the 9300MGS, 2.7 with the Intel GMA 950. That shows you the big fundamental differences between the power of those two graphics chips. And let's see. Also quickly show the ambient light sensor. I've turned on the ambient light sensor now, and the screen has dimmed a little bit because it has observed the ambient light in the room, and it has dimmed the screen accordingly to give me both optimal viewing and to conserve the battery life. And so if I turn it back off, it should automatically brighten the screen back up. And the other button up here again is our zoom button. So I hit the zoom button. That should bring up a little window that follows the mouse pointer, and we are zoomed in at 2x, and it seems to have mysteriously disappeared already. Let me bring it back. There we go. So at 2x magnification, I can press it again, it gives me 3x magnification. Press it a third time, I get full screen 3x magnification. And I can press it, and then that will remove it completely. So there's a lot of features to the N10J. It's a really nice notebook, and remember, it's not a netbook, but You can get a lot of notebook features in the size that you could get for a netbook.